Okay, it's July 5th. It's almost about 1 o'clock now. It's a little bit later in the day. This is my third video. Let's see how things are looking in the geoengineering chemtrail world. Okay, you can still see them over there. Most of it is really just dispersed, but you can still see some of those lines, and we are fully engaged now, and this is how it works. See how it just disperses? And those aren't clouds. Look at it. It's hard on my phone, but to really capture it, but it's a line. And we're much more able to really expose this on the West Coast because we don't have a whole lot of trees like the East Coast does. On the East Coast, I mean, it's hard to even see the sky in some places. But here is specifically kind of more of a desert area. There's a much more wide expanse, and it's so easy to see the chemtrailing. And you can see the lines out there? Yeah, that's when it just starts. And this is what it looks like later. So I told you that it would start turning white, and it's starting to turn white. Yep. Yeah. And if you haven't seen the previous videos that I've done today, please go back and watch it. It is titled Whistleblower Exposes Jet Spraying. There's part 1, part 2, and this will be part 3. And I talk about the secret government programs, the money that basically was created and then lost in the Pentagon. Talked about that. Most likely this is how these secret chemtrail programs are working, is through these basically money laundering. No one can track the money that the Pentagon has lost. It's over $20 trillion, and I've got the links in my previous videos. I'll put a link in this video. Catherine Austin Fitts has exposed that. And this is true, people. This is completely true. I specifically try to talk to people of my own faith because we kind of understand things on a different level. We go to church every week. We read the Book of Mormon, which has specific scripture in it that talks about secret combinations during the last days, which I believe and other people in my faith believe that we are living in right now. Yet, so many people of my faith refuse to believe in secret combinations, even though they read it in their own scriptures. And they also refuse to believe that our own government is actually part of the conspiracy. Now, we don't always know who those individuals are, but if you really look deep, trust me, it's not too hard to figure out who's actually involved in these programs. For instance, the most unpopular topic, which I haven't talked about in many, many years, 9/11. Obviously, this is July 5th. It's not 9/11, which is a day in which, we don't celebrate. We instead honor. But we don't like to talk about what exactly happened that day. We don't like to talk about how 2 twin towers actually collapsed at the speed of gravity. Now, just again, think about that for a second. How do you fall at the speed of gravity when you have at least some resistance from metal pylons and metal girders and beams underneath you? That literally doesn't make logical sense. You can look up the architects that's actually started a group. I think it's called Architects for Truth. I'm trying to remember. They were trying to expose the lies from 9/11 about, these terrorists came in with planes and, crashed into the planes, and then that's why the actual buildings actually collapsed, which is completely and totally ridiculous. I'm a welder by trade, or used to be. I actually sold my shop a year ago, but I've worked around metal all my life. I've torch cut it, melted it, pounded it, welded it together, cut it apart. Trust me, you cannot melt metal with jet fuel, which is just refined kerosene. Okay? It's just refined kerosene. It doesn't burn hot enough. Do you know how hot it has to get in order for you to melt metal? It's like 1600 degrees, okay? Jet fuel cannot reach that temperature, not even close. And then you'd have to put all that heat, even if you could get up to that temperature, you'd have to get all that heat concentrated in one area like you would a torch, an oxyacetylene torch. Yeah, there were a lot of architects that tried to expose the truth to that false narrative, that false flag. And of course, everybody calls them a conspiracy theorist. And yet, that's what they do for a living. And those people will call me a conspiracy theorist too, but it's basically the same thing, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the cloud seeding that they do here in Utah, by the way. Utah.gov used to actually have on their website a diagram that showed the aerosol spraying for their cloud seeding, but they took that down. That was on the DNR's website, Department of Natural Resources for Utah. How convenient. I guess they didn't like to actually show a diagram where they actually show jet planes actually spraying chemicals in the sky. Yeah, they don't want people asking questions, and when I basically started to expose that, they got rid of it. So that's no longer on their website. This is how government works. They try to give really lame excuses of why all these things happen, and then when people start to go, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. We're seeing this over here, and then we're seeing this over there, and this isn't right. Somebody's not telling us the truth. They just take it down from the internet. Yeah, they just get rid of it. That's what the Pentagon did when Catherine Austin Fitts found out that they had lost $20 trillion. Yeah, they just got rid of all that evidence as quickly as they could, and that's how government works. So all of these things, whether it be 9/11 or the chemtrails or the missing $20 trillion in the Pentagon, you know, it just, it all adds up, and it's not by accident. There's plenty of books out there and plenty of patriots out there, Julian Assange being one. He's now in prison, and that's the way government works. When you talk about the truth, they either silence you, put you in prison, or kill you. It's basically just like the DNC. You know, when organizers in the DNC started to question where money was going, and seeing that there was some criminal activity, they started questioning the Clinton Foundation and how much money was coming up missing, and other things, other criminal activities of that organization. Yeah, they were found dead. Yeah, with gunshot wounds to the back of the head. You can look that up, and then it was deemed a suicide. Because you know what? When I commit suicide, I like to actually blow my brains out with a shotgun from the back. Yep. And that's legit. You can look that up. Of course, we'll just continue to just keep telling ourselves that we're free, and that this is the greatest country on earth, and that we don't have any problems here in America. We're clean and virtuous. And all the nasty stuff that we do around the world, toppling governments and starting coups, that's all great. It's all for freedom. We should force people to live like us, and yet we ourselves are not even free. It's quite hypocritical. But anyways, here's the wonderful chemtrails. Yeah, right there. And this is what we're breathing. And this is how the secret groups are actually controlling the weather. And so when you see all these crazy natural phenomena that are occurring, now you know why. So there's plenty of books to read. The one I would start you off with, which is the one I started off with, which was called None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. And it's a fantastic book. It talks to you about these secret combinations in Washington, D.C. and how they work and why they're there and what their goal is. And this is the same book that Ezra Taft Benson. Now, most of you that aren't members of my faith won't know who that is, but those who are will know. He actually told members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to read that book over the pulpit. And I guarantee you that most of the members of the church have not read that book. And after they listen to this, if they're actually still listening to this video, they probably still will not read that book. But that's the world in which we live. We don't want to really talk about reality. because it's going to require sacrifice if we really accept what's really going on in our lives. So on this July 5th day of 2019, I wish you all the most freedom and the most liberty possible. And in order really to have what we really want for us and our children, we're going to have to wake up to reality and fight for our faith, for freedom. True freedom, not just flag waving and pies and firecrackers and beer, okay? True freedom, like our founding fathers fought for. Principles, virtues, eternal principles. With that, I will leave you until maybe another video later on this day. All right, bye.